Hi guys.
Hi, we're Cesar and Pam with cesarandpam.com.
Grow your business without losing your soul, your family, or your health. So as many of you know, thank you for logging in. We have a business, an internet business in the travel industry, and our passion is to help people that are super focused on their business and on their career to grow their business without losing their soul, their family, or their health in the process. Because many times we go grow our business, and at the end of getting to the top, we realize that we lost the stuff that we said we were doing it for, the people that we say we were doing it for. And we don't want that to happen to you. So during these lives, we talk about different aspects, the spiritual aspect, your relationship with God, relationships, your marriage, your parenting, your health. Last week, we talked about that. And this week, we're going to talk about finances. We're going to start a series on that. And a lot of the material we're going to share from is based on Dave Ramsey's The Total Money Makeover. So somebody we follow for 20 years now. It's been a huge help to get it started on our finances when we moved here from Mexico 20 years ago.
Yeah, he talks about how we operate with our finances is 20% your knowledge and 80% your behavior. Like where you're at financially has to do 20% with what you know and 80% is what you're actually doing. And I was thinking when I read that, wow, I'm thankful that when we got married 30 years ago, we didn't have any money. So we went to live in Mexico and we just lived with the little that we made, you know, and we made, we didn't have any credit, so we couldn't use credit cards. You know, in Mexico, you can't buy a house with a fixed interest.
Back then, I don't know what it's like right now. But.
Yeah, well, then we couldn't, and so it wasn't an option. You know, we didn't have enough money, but we just used the money we had, and we only bought things if we could afford it. And wow, I'm so thankful we didn't get into debt.
Yeah. We're going to share with you some concepts here that might be a little controversial, maybe a little too simplistic. Aristotle said, to avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, and be nothing. Also, Benjamin Franklin said, those convinced against their will are of the same opinion still. So we don't want to try to convince you of what we've done, what we're trying to do in our lives, but we want to help you consider some aspects of your life of how you could improve. Because like I said on the video, maybe you are buried in debt right now. Or maybe not. Maybe you are doing okay financially, seemingly, because you make good income. But at the end of the month, you have no idea where the money went. We want to help you figure out what the problem is. And then number two, we're going to help you. We're going to give you a map to show you how to get to financial freedom long term. And anything that is worthwhile is not going to happen overnight.
Yeah. You might be thinking right now that you're pretty good you're in a good financial situation right now. It's just like marriage, you know, or parenting. Sometimes we feel like we're in a crisis, you know, in our marriage or with our children. There's a crisis going on and we're very aware of it. But other times, you know, we go to a marriage retreat or something and seminar, and we think we're doing all right, and we listen and we realize, wow, there's some ways we can grow. There's some things we can change to have a better relationship. And I think it's that with finances. Right now, what's happening in our world with the pandemic, you know, people losing their jobs. There might be people listening right now who are in crisis. And you know that finances, like that's what's stressing you out. That's what's on your mind. And that's what it's just the thing right now, you know. And there's other people who are very thankful that they still have their jobs, you know. That's our situation. Cesar are still working. But you are aware, like we started reading this book again, listening to Dave Ramsey again and going, you know what, we have some areas we could do better, you know? And so I think no matter where you're at, like you can get something out of this.
Yeah, so don't think that the ideas we're going to share with you are too simplistic. This first live of 30 minutes is going to be helping you to be aware of the situation where you're at. 80% of the solution is behavior. I think did you already say that? Okay. So point number one, 80% of the solution is behavior, 20% is knowledge. So don't think that you have to be too sophisticated. And here's another tip. Don't take advice from broke people. If you go to a gym, don't pay a trainer who's fat. If you are looking for marriage advice, don't take advice from somebody who's been divorced 3 times. Go to somebody who has the result that you like to have. Says here, a quote from this book, behavior intelligently viewed takes into account the emotional, relational, the family history, the socioeconomic impacts, and the spiritual impact as well. So because 80% of your problem is behavior, we're going to focus heavily on that. We live today in a society that is in love with complicated solutions and is in love worshiping materialism and status. Status is wanting to buy things with money you don't have to impress people that you don't know, maybe you don't even like. And I have news for you. Those people that you think you're impressing, they're not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. So write this down. You need to start focusing on what you can provide and start, like Abraham says, living your age. I mean, your wage. Living your wage.
Your age.
Act your, you know how that saying, act your age?
Act your age.
Act
Live
your wage. Yeah. Honey, you remember the story of the 3 little pigs? Who,
Yeah, I do.
Tell us.
And the big bad wolf.
Yeah, that one.
Okay, well, there were 3 little pigs, and they had to go build their houses. And gosh, it's been a long time since I thought about the 3 pigs. But one of them I know built his house out of straw, and that was pretty quick and really fast. He could get that done. And the other one said, "Ooh, I'm going to build it out of sticks." And then the 3rd pig said, "No, I'm going to build it out of bricks." And that took longer. And so the other 2, I think they're kind of like, why is he working so hard? It's taking him so long, making all those bricks and building that house. But along comes the big bad wolf, and the pigs are hiding in their houses. And the big bad wolf comes to the house built of straw, and he says, "Let me in." And the little pig says, "Not by the hair on my chin, chin, chin." And so the big bad wolf says, "I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow the house down." And he did. And there goes the house of straw, and that little pig, well, depending on the book, he either gets eaten or he runs to his friend's house, right? Depends on how bad and drastic the book is. Anyway, so then it goes to the one with the sticks, and same thing. He huffs and he puffs and he blows the house down. And then he goes to the 3rd little pig, who's in the brick house, who took a lot more time to build his house. and the wolf huffs and puffs, but he can't blow the house down.
Mm-hmm. And today we need to learn from this crisis. The big bad wolf is out there right now. And just like it happened in 2008 with the subprime mortgage bubble, if you remember that, we remember 2008 came and they created these mortgages for people who couldn't afford them, really. Mm-hmm. They have variable interest. They were called subprime mortgages. And big shocker when they started selling thousands of these mortgages, and people who were broke should really not be living in that house, defaulted on their payments. And they said, "Sorry, we can't pay anymore." And the greedy bankers freaked out, and they ended up with all these houses they couldn't get rid of. Actually, the house that we're living in, we got from the bank 10 years ago in the year 2010. And we paid 1/3 less, about $100,000 less than we should have paid, because the builder had gone bankrupt. So if I'm going to give you a quick tip right here, if you have stability in your life, if you can use this current crisis we're living in right now to learn something through some of the principles we're going to share with you, you will be better prepared for when the next crisis, the next storm, the next big bad wolf comes. You can actually take advantage and profit from it.
The Bible says, the wise man built his house upon the rock, and the foolish man built his house on the sand. So then when the storms came, the house on the sand didn't last, but the house built on the rock, really, it can withstand the storm.
Yes. So when that crisis took place 12 years ago, the stock market started panicking. People stopped buying. And I'm going to read a quick explanation here. Fear broke in Wall Street and stock prices started dropping. By the time the fear got to Washington, it had become a full-blown panic. And once the panic got to the news media, it had become all-out hysteria. Everyday American consumers watched the hysteria play out on television with their 401ks and home values dropping. They wisely decided that this was not a good time to keep spending like a drunken congressman. When we stopped buying stuff at a breakneck speed, the economy slowed and businesses began hurting everywhere. Companies who were deeply in debt and cash poor began to die. A lot of businesses vanished almost overnight. People stopped buying washers and dryers, so the washer and dryer manufacturers started laying people off and unemployment rose. And this, of course, just made the cycle go around and again, forcing real estate and stock prices to go even lower. That's exactly what's happening today. February, in March, they declared that there was this pandemic, this invisible virus, and they predicted millions were going to die. Well, today, months later, we can see that the numbers are not as drastic as they said they would be. We can see that the virus is very comparable to the flu, that only people that have high risk, people that are very old or people that are very sick or people that are immune compromised are a high risk. But they shut down the economy. When they shut down the economy, now it's become a political game until the election in November. They want to keep everything shut down. Well, that shuts down the economy, unemployment, the government's printing money like crazy, which is going to create inflation. And maybe you are hurting because of it right now. We want you to become aware of this cycle, which took place because of greed. At a macro level, at a national level, at a company level, at a family level, at a personal finance level, the problem starts always because of pride. We think we're doing better than we really are, so we take high risks.
That sounds really bleak, Cesar.
So tell us about, speaking of that, I mean, let's think about, we have history to look at. The Great Depression, right? So after World War I, the roaring 20s were an awesome period of history. But then during the 30s started the Great Depression, and then World War II in the 40s. People that lived through the Great Depression and World War II, such as your grandparents, tell us about your grandma.
No, I mean, I know my grandma lived through the Depression, and she was very frugal. And she taught my mom, to be very frugal. And I didn't realize that, well, my grandparents were teachers, and so it wasn't like they made so much money, but they were very wise with their spending. And so when my grandmother, my grandfather died, and he was pretty, I think he was only just 60 or something when he died. Anyways, my grandmother lived alone for a long time, but she had the money, and she was able to start traveling. And you would think, because, grandma, I just remember her just saving. You save the tissue paper from a present, you just save things and you reuse things. But, all of a sudden she would be able to go on a trip, and she would go on this luxury trip because she had saved. But then she'd come back and she would live a very, careful, frugal life, and taught that to my mom. I remember growing up, you'd go to the store and you'd see something and be like, wow, that is so beautiful. You didn't just buy it. It was too expensive. So you said no, I think some people never have that. When I had friends who I found out later, like if they like something, they buy it. I'm like, wow, what is that like? Because I just grew up, you learn to say no. I remember my mom jokes that I said, well, there was a store I liked called Casual Corner. And I said, well, I'm going to marry someone who lets me buy whatever I want in Casual Corner.
You were 20 years old? No. How old were you when you said that?
No, I was probably 15 or something. I was in high school, and that's where I wanted to shop, but it was considered too expensive.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that I learned to live within our means.
Yeah, and maybe we don't want you to think that, man, am I going to have to be miserable my whole life and never be able to buy anything and just make my own clothes? And no, but you're going to have to learn to say no to yourself. 80% of the problem is behavior and 20% is knowledge. Okay, so that's number one. There's a saying that Dave Ramsey has in his book that says, even a turkey can fly in a tornado, right? Tornado comes and you think, man, our turkey's already flying. No, it's because of a tornado. Warren Buffett said, when the tide goes down, everybody can see who's skinny dipping. So maybe you have had habits of really, your income is here, but you're living like here, and you're managing your debt, but you're living day to day, you're living week to week, you're living paycheck to paycheck. And when a tough financial situation comes, such as right now, when maybe they decrease your wages, or you lost your job, or your business suffered, all of a sudden you're in real trouble, because the wolf just blew your house because you were used to living at this level. So we want to help you identify how to change that. And the person that you need to talk to, number one, is the person you look at in the mirror every day.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all of us, that's why we're looking at this book again, because we've seen areas where we got fat, we weren't as concerned about some of the little decisions we were making.
Yeah, we were living in Mexico. You were talking about that, right?
Yeah.
It meant we didn't have any money. So we just said no. They wouldn't even give me a credit card when we got married. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't even an option. Right. But then we got here to the US, and we started applying some of the principles that we're going to share in the next few weeks with you, and they started working. But last week, I followed somebody I really respect. Ron Paul is a ex-presidential candidate, and he recommended some people that recommend investments, and I got on this webinar, and I follow a little bit of cryptocurrencies, and they were talking about, because of inflation, how the dollar is losing value, and cryptocurrencies are going to soar, so it will be good to invest, not a lot of money, but a little bit to play with, or maybe precious metals, to silver or gold. And man, I pressed the button to buy the course.
Not almost, you pressed the button.
I pressed the button, but I almost bought it because my credit card declined it, because they look like an uncommon purchase. So they declined it. It was Saturday night, I think it was, or Friday night.
I know, but it gave you another day, which is a principle in this book, right? Don't make decisions. Wait a day.
Yeah. So I waited the following day. We were able to talk. I was able to pray a little more. And I realized that I was too fat for that kind of workout. I realized that I didn't have the extra amount of money, few $1,000s for the course, few $1,000s to invest. I'm like, I'm going to put myself at risk. And that is the number one problem that Jim Collins, the author of the book, How the Mighty Fall, discusses. He says, the first stage of decline on any economy, on any company, on any family, on any individual economy is marked by pride and arrogance, mixed with a false notion of invincibility. Lead the mighty to take huge, ridiculous risks. In our case, that would be borrowing lots of money and not saving any, because my job is stable. I can afford the easy payments with my job. Did that happen to you? That is revealing that maybe you have built a house of cards, and the storm has come and they have tumbled down. Handling well your money well has to work in times of prosperity and in times of need. Mm-hmm. So you guys just saying?
No, I just think we can be so focused on the moment. We think we're invincible. Just what you said. I mean, it's just saying the same thing, but it's just so easy to do when we're comfortable, when life is good. We start trusting in ourselves and our situation. And I think if we have principles that last, principles that are in God's word, and we're acting on that, then that is firm. That's something we can trust. We can't go with just, how we feel today, or how our bank account looks today, or our job today, because those things don't last.
Change is going to be a challenge, okay? You're going to have to pay a price. But if you change some of the few things we're going to share with you in the next few weeks, you can make a significant change in your life. But the person that needs to change is the person in the mirror. I'm going to read you this other paragraph. Some of you are so immature that you're unwilling to delay pleasure for a great result. I will show you exactly how to get the result you want, so the price you pay will not be in vain. I don't want to walk across hot coals because it's fun. But if I can be shown how a short, painful walk will do away with a lifetime of worry, frustration, stress, and fear that being constantly broke brings me, then bring on the hot coals. I don't know if you remember if you heard about the marshmallow experiment done by Stanford University years ago. They took 400 4-year-olds and they brought them into a room one by one where they had some toys and books and a little table, a little chair, and they sat down and they told the little 4-year-old, I'm going to give you a marshmallow. It's yours. You can eat it right away. But if you wait 20 minutes, in 20 minutes I will be back. And if you have waited and have not eaten the marshmallow, I'll give you a second marshmallow. Or you can just eat the one marshmallow you have. A third of the kids ate the marshmallow immediately. Another third of them waited, procrastinated, and eventually ate it anyway. And only a third of the kids waited the full 20 minutes and received a second marshmallow. What's most interesting about this study is that the researchers followed these kids throughout their lifetime and found out that the third who waited, they were more successful in every area of life because they had a foundation of self-control. And in these next few weeks, we're going to teach you some of those principles. How to say new words like no. Every person who is in a financial situation, that's been my case too, you were there because of your own fault. It's not your spouse's fault. Maybe it is. We'll get to that later on. It's not your parents' fault. It's not your children's fault. It's not your friend's fault. It's your own fault. You're the only one who got yourself into that mess. You're the only one who can get out of that mess. There's no politician, no government, no job, no quick fix that is going to get you out of that because it's high risk. It's going to take small steps, learning discipline over a period of time. And it's just like anything in life, right, honey? In health, in your relationships, in building a business, in your spiritual walk. It's going to be small steps. And the step number 1 is realizing that you need to change your ways. Step number 2, to identify the obstacles that you have in order to get there. And many of you are in denial. Last week, I was in denial. I thought I could do that investment, but it would have represented a risk that I don't have the flexibility for those $10,000 right now. So guess what? Even though that investment still could have been good, not only on the money, but on the time that I was going to have to invest into it, I didn't have enough bandwidth to do it. So I have to be realistic with myself. And Dave Ramsey says that when you're fat, you can look in a mirror, take off your shirt, no matter how much you stick out your chest, you suck in your gut, you still look fat. So you're going to have to realize where you need to trim out the fat. And he talks about an example from this couple that
I also like what he says. You can hide it from other people, but you can't hide it from yourself. You can suck in your gut and take a good angle on Instagram, but you see yourself, you know what's there.
This couple had always held their stomachs in when standing in front of the mirror. The night after they laid her off, she lost her job, was the first night they looked in the financial mirror and saw fat people. The sight wasn't pretty. Big house payments, fat car payments, large student loans, bloated credit cards, anorexic savings, and no budget. And now, you're going to have friends and family that are going to be enablers. They're going to participate with you and tell you, you're fine because it's normal to be broke. But remember, don't take advice from broke people. They're going to lead you to mediocrity. Just like Zig Ziglar has an example where he talks about how do you make frog soup. You put the frog in lukewarm water and you turn on the heat, and it heats up so gradually that the frog never realizes until it's too late.
Yeah, doesn't try to jump out of the top.
The enemy of the best is not the worst. The enemy of the best is just fine. We're doing just fine. In order to change anything, you're going to have to go through some pain. But you either pay the price now or you pay the long-term price forever of never changing. You're never going to change something unless, where it says right here, most people won't change until the pain of where they are exceeds the pain of change. When it comes to money, we can be like the toddler in a soiled diaper. I know it smells bad, but it's warm and it's mine. Only when the rash comes, we will cry out. So don't wait. for that financial heart attack to come, do it now. Maybe right now you're in a situation where you're like, man, I am in that financial debt situation of a heart attack financially. It's still not too late. You're going to have to make some changes and you're going to find a position. And when that happens, remember the words of Albert Einstein, who said, great spirits have often encountered violent opposition from weak minds. Honey, just to finish this session, do you remember the story of the emperor with no clothes?
Yeah.
Tell us that story.
Well, the emperor thought he was pretty great. He was pretty full of himself, and some new tailors came in town with the latest fashion, and they said, hey, this has special powers that only people that really can do their job well or are intelligent can see this cloth. And so the emperor looked at the cloth that they were going to make his suit with, and he couldn't see anything, but he didn't want to admit it. And so he bought this expensive cloth, and they made his suit, and he put it on, but he was in his underwear, and he went parading out, and everyone was afraid to say what was true, that he was like in his underwear. That's all they saw. No one could see the emperor's new clothes until a little child called out, the emperor's in his underwear.
Yeah, so be that little child right now about your own situation. In the next session, we're going to tell you how to recognize debt myths. There are a lot of myths that tell you it's okay to get into debt, into personal financial debt, to be able to get yourself out of the hole. We're also going to talk about money myths. We're going to look at a bunch of people that long-term have been able to create financial freedom. And I can't imagine what life would have been like if we wouldn't have applied these principles 20 years ago. And we were riddled like that. I mean, we've gotten off course at times, yeah. But we can see how much more easily it is to get back on course, once you apply those principles and learn them in your lives.
Yeah, and I'm excited that we're looking at it again, because I know like we said, we see some areas where we're fat and we need to get in shape. And so, when you go to talk about something, you got to work on yourself. And that's what we're doing right now. So join us, take those first steps. An object in motion stays in motion, an object at rest stays at rest. And we've been talking about this for a while, and it's like hard to take some of the steps that we need to take to really take a hard look at our fat, Mm-hmm. And but I know, just taking a step, it gets you in action. So take a look. Where are you spending? Start writing it down. What are you spending money on this month? Where is your money going? Start taking a look at that.
2 practical steps. Number 1 is create somehow, sell something, in some way, create $1,000 emergency fund. This is going to be a quick, just $1,000 for any critical emergencies that come up. I don't care if you're in debt. Do something out. Do something where you figure out a way to come up with $1,000 or 30% of your income. If your income is it's $500 a month, then come up with 30% of that to be able to just have a little peace of mind if anything super urgent would come up. And then number 2, start writing that list of debts. Who do you owe money to? Credit cards, a car note, your mortgage too, personal loans that you have, department stores, credit cards. I mean, people are trying, banks in every store now seems to be wanting to create a credit card so that you can get more into debt. So I want you to create a list of those debts that you have, and we'll go through them on the next episode.
All right. We're Cesar and Pam with cesarandpam.com.
Grow your business without losing your soul, your family, or your health in the process. See you on the next one. And send us a question. If you have any questions, we'd love to address them during the lives that we do every week. And next week, maybe next Tuesday, we'll keep you posted. Talk to you soon.